Hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. I have 41 minutes. And I suppose that's enough time. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't forget to hit subscribe, as well as the notification button. My name is Brian Jennings. I'm a writer, as well as an actor. And this channel exists to discuss the nature of my relationship with Quentin Tarantino and the movie Critic. Despite what he tells the people that he lies to, he canceled that film because of a series of reviews and letters that I wrote him as an actor about playing the lead. And so, yes, Quentin's a famous guy. Right? I can't really have any genuine expectations of him saying anything to me having no clout. Right? And I was perfectly fine with that. But Quentin, through a series of his machinations, violated my mind after he read my letters. And so, after writing him, so I wrote him 4 letters in the beginning and didn't write him again, right? Because he's a famous guy. If I write him every week, it's weird, right? Like, I acknowledge that. I wrote 4 letters from the heart, said nothing else about it. 6 months later, he read my letters and started remote viewing me. Quentin Tarantino is a psychic clairvoyant who remote views people and manipulates them with his mind. And so, when he jumped into my mind, I started writing him again. And I wrote him another 8 letters, but 6 over the course of maybe 6 weeks, 1 a week. From the middle of December to the end of January. And so, with the 7th and 8th one in the mail, the press announced that Brad Pitt was reuniting with him, and he stopped accepting my mail. And so, right, that upset me in a big way. To take so much of my writing and think that I'm such a fucking plebeian that he has the right to say, oh, gosh, how quaint. Oh, what a peculiar thing. Huh, poo-poo, I'm famous. So, I wrote a 7,000-word essay torching him and Brad Pitt, reminding the world, right, that Cliff Booth and Brad Pitt are the same person. Right? That Brad Pitt won his Oscar in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because Quentin fictionalized his destroying his marriage. Cliff Booth murders his wife on a boat and gets away with it because Brad Pitt beat up his wife on an airplane and got away with it. Right? When did they shoot Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? 2018? So what does that mean? That like in 2016 when Brad Pitt beat up his wife, that would be like right around the same time that Quentin was like writing a script, isn't it? Oh, gosh. The mystery of the movies. And so I published that essay, and then I started reviewing movies in protest. Hashtag boycott the movie critic. And after I posted my 4,500-word review of Gone with the Wind directly to him, he canceled the film the following morning. 1 second. So, that's what happened. And now it's just this fucked up, tedious exercise in clairvoyance that's gotten no one involved anywhere except 1 foot closer to hell. Right? That's like all that's happened. And I'm not going to go over the whole story. If you see, I'm shredding potatoes because while I'm a lot of things, writer, musician, actor, designer, sculptor, painter, drawer. I'm also a pretty good chef. And so my mother likes to go to church on Sundays. And she wanted to cook something, and she was going to buy a bag of frozen potatoes, frozen hash browns, and I knew I had these. I said, oh no, I'll do it for you. And so that's what I'm doing. In acting, they refer to this as an environmental. And of course, Quentin has a number of famous food scenes, doesn't he? And I'm trying real hard, Brad. Right? So, the two of us now exist as a hive mind. And so I made the channel because after suffering the rack, and I suppose if I had any cunning at all, I would have put it together immediately, but I don't. After suffering the rack for months, I realized that he's just going to manipulate me until I blow my brains out. That's what's actually occurring here. And so it's his intent to lie to everyone about me, about the movie critic forever, even though that's not completely possible. Because there's several people that have known about me the entire time. Quentin doesn't exist in a vacuum. Right? That they were making that movie. Right? Sony's putting up $150 million, $200 million. He doesn't just get to say, oh, it's not working, poo-poo. Right? It's a business. My point being that Tom Rothman, as well as Stacey Sher, as well as his agency William Morris Endeavor, have known about me the entire time. Right? And so, right, he set me up through his telepathic mind games at Tribeca, and I burned him. And if he would have just paid me $500,000, $1 million to go away, I would just be ashamed of myself forever. But for him to enter into this campaign, to compel me to madness, to compel me to at least appear insane, to justify his playing Russian roulette, is quite literally the definition of evil. And so I have no choice but to talk about it, despite how difficult it is, despite the evil that he perpetrates upon me whenever he wants. And so, I can do the same thing. There's nothing stopping anyone from being evil beyond their own personal ethical standard. And so Quentin doesn't have one, that's the point. Right? And everyone around him, they just believe his lies, or they just don't care. I don't really know what they think, honestly. So, I wrote a novel about it called Building a Coven, and I got all the way through it in terms of a kind of an ending. And it was good, but now I'm rewriting it. I'm writing something now that's dynamite. Doesn't have to be about me, it's about him. Right? Famous filmmaker. Famous for his decadent fucking depravity. Right? So what exactly am I talking about? I mean that when he canceled the film, he started remote viewing me every day, all day. Watching me at work, watching me writing at night. Right? Trying to see who I am, I guess. I wrote him immediately, right? Refused at the door. I wrote him a week before Tribeca, refused at the door. And so, right? He set up that screening of Jackie Brown to see if I would come out. And I didn't want to, I never wanted to. But my coworkers convinced me to go. And then, through his remote viewing, right, planted this seed in my mind of questioning him about his book, Cinema Speculation. And so, I was ready. I came there with 10 questions. But when he expected me to read his mind in that moment, I balked. So, what do I gain out of talking about this? Nothing. I just appear like a loser. And if you want to believe him, I appear completely insane. Right? But it's time. It's time to talk about it. No more secrets. Right? It's fine to have telepathic expectations from the people that you want to collaborate with. Right? I guess he saw it as some sort of initiation where he has to, right? He has to read my mind. Right? And so in that moment, I said, no thanks. You still don't want to tell me what you want. You still want to deny my writing. I wrote him again a week before Tribeca. Refused at the door. Shoved a letter all the way up to his face in that moment. So he stuck his nose up at my writing, turned his back on my writing, all the while going tee-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee, right? Like the puppet master controlling me, right? With his subtle bullshit telepathic mind games. And I proved him impotent as a psychic, that's the point. And so I'm sick of talking about it, right? Like, who cares? You can't control an actor in the world, right? And so if he was comfortable with himself, right, he would have paid me and moved on with his life, right? But I suspect that his arrogance made him overplay his hand. And so he told everybody that I was going to give him what he wanted without telling them that he didn't actually tell me what he wanted me to do. He just played a fucked up mind game with me so that if he doubles back in any way, right, then he's submitting to me as a psychic, that's like what's actually occurring, right? So he has to lie to everyone and has some sort of document that he says, oh, no, this is where I told him. As far as Robert De Niro, right, it was a conversation with Robert De Niro. Everything that they said in that conversation was in relation to me, right? Quite literally, everything. And so in that way, I denied the light in myself. Like, that's true. However, that's my right, isn't it? Anyone who knows anything about the Bible, they know that there was this thing. It's called the Council of Nicaea. And so the Roman Empire had an emperor at the time. And his name was, I forget, but he was in fact refused in the Eleusinian mysteries at the time. And perhaps that had something to do with him finding the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ at his deathbed, as well as incubating this idea of canonizing the Bible. But at any rate, right, they denied him access but didn't try to kill him, did they? Right? And so after Tribeca, right, he created this sick, dense conspiracy, which he can and will always deny, to make me lose my mind, to compel me to blow my brains out, right? I don't know what he told everyone around him, but something to the effect of, oh, we have to do this, like he's a threat to us. And I suppose in some way I am now, as far as like, I'm going to talk about this forever. And he can lie to everyone forever, and I can tell the truth forever, right? This is the point that I'm making, right? That there's nothing stopping any one of the journalistic bodies that I reached out to, from actually asking Robert De Niro what he has to say about it. Actually trying to watch the footage from the screening of Jackie Brown last year. Actually talking to the cameramen who were in the back of the theater. Right? It's only his psychic prowess that is protecting the truth from coming out. Right? And so, in that way, I have to fight him tooth and nail. I have to say the truth in such an egregious way that I humiliate myself to everyone. I'm a fucking loser. Like, yeah, like that's like, I don't need anyone's approval. Right? But Quentin has created a dangerous condition in both of our minds. And so it behooves us to talk about it. Because all that's left is evil. Right? There's no subtlety, right? It was subtle for a long time. Then when I started remote viewing him, he confessed within 1 week that everything that he'd been telling me is bullshit. And then it became obvious that he's just manipulating me until I kill myself. That's what's been occurring. And so I've been trying to come clean ever since. For the subsequent 2 or 3 months, I did it his way, the occult way, where I reached out to his agency, right? I reached out to his family. I reached out to the law firm that represents his father-in-law's estate. Right? No reply from anyone. Right? And so now, right, the point is that he just wants me to say nothing, right? Or he wants me to blow my brains out. That's the point. And so my point is that the condition that he's engendered within his own mind is just as dangerous as the one that he's put in my mind. And as long as the two of us exist in the way that we do, he always has palpable cause to actually break psychologically and send someone to murder me. Only as much as I do, right? Like, I do acknowledge that. Like, yes, like, I'm touching on me not being well either, right? That he and the people around him have spent some 500 hours remote viewing me, and I have had confirmation from PhD Deborah Katz, and I quote, "You are under psychic attack." Right? She doesn't want to believe the things that I say because it's pure evil. There's no, right? It's just evil. Right? It defines his whole life forever. Nothing else that he's ever done has ever mattered. And so if he was a good person, right, if he lived with love in his heart, if he saw his beautiful wife for what she is, a goddess, if he saw his family, his success for what it is, a great blessing from God the Father, then he would have paid me nothing to stop being a thorn in his ass and made his fucking movie. Right? But if he went out of his way to flex his psychic eye over everyone in town and say, oh, this is my new guy, Puppet Master, like I talked to him, if he lied to all of them, right? And then he lied to me, right? If he just lied to everyone, right? Then he can't just tell them, oh, well, I didn't actually tell him. I told him with my clairvoyance, right? Like, of course, like that's like, right? So now we're in this sort of celestial stalemate, which is as hideous as it gets. And so it's incumbent upon me to be honest and forthright and just be prepared to humiliate myself to the entire world. Right? So that's what I'm doing. I don't need Quentin Tarantino's approval. I wanted it. I wanted him to say something to me. Right? And he never did, so he never got anything out of me. That's the point. I don't have to be a telepath to be a good artist. Right? I can forgive everything all the way up until Tribeca. It's his movie. This is how he makes his movies. How can I fault a man for expecting me to go through the gauntlet, the crucible of fire, on his terms because it's his movie? Right? But everything that's occurred thereafter is a true covenant with evil, is a true testament to how unwell he is in his mind and how dangerous, in fact, he is. And so the last 2 weeks have been pretty good, but my point is that he's not doing anything right now. I've said this 1,000 times. He's got 2 different projects slated for next month and January. And his pattern of behavior is thus. Anytime he's doing something where he's reminded of the fact that he lied to everyone in show business and so has to continue lying to them forever, he uses his clairvoyance, him and the degenerates that I'll call him master, up to and including his wife, to make my life miserable. Right? With the power that no court can ever try him on. And I'm up to here with it, for sure. As far as just being abused. I can't just let him, right, violate the sanctity of my soul for nothing. And so it's very upsetting. I have no desire to play any sort of psychic violation, bullshit mind games, soul destruction games that turn him and his wife on. They disgust me and they're perverse. Right? But I can't just do nothing anymore. Right? It's a joke to him. Right? And so these things that I'm writing on in my story, right, though it's likely not true, at least one part of it. But it is largely true, spiritually. As far as, right, the type of shit that he's into, the type of shit he does behind closed doors. Right, how do I know? Because I'm living it. Right, 500 hours remote viewing me, him and the people around us. Right, we're a case study in remote viewing. Right? And so, for all that I espouse formulas over how long that might take, right? The reality is that the number is irrelevant. That it's going to take exponentially more time than it took to actually watch me through remote viewing for our connection to diminish. And since he can't just trust me in the world because he knows that I can do all the same awful shit to him that he did to me, it is incumbent upon him to pay someone to watch me forever. And so therefore, our connection will never diminish because he's perpetuating it upon himself as well as me and the people around him. So, I have to talk about it. Right? I have to. I have to be prepared to meet him measure for measure. Right? Sick. Hideous evil, the highest evil anyone could practice. And originally I thought it was me, but no, it's all him. It's all, as far as the insight, as far as what he's been doing. I remember I helped a guy move a bunch of shit out of a storage shed. I don't know, 3 months ago, 2 months ago. And I was talking to this guy about it in some way. And I was talking about how Wicca and voodoo and magic and sorcery, they're all the same things. And he was like, oh, no. No, they're not. He was very adamant about that. And What I'm saying right now is he's wrong. They are, in fact, they're the same things, which are the same things as telepathy and remote viewing, clairvoyance, right? That it's the understanding that mind is a conscious field which permeates all of space. And so our individual consciousness is diffused within that larger collective. And so all instances of clairvoyance, up to and including healing the sick, right, derive from the mind of the medium, harmonizing their conscious awareness with the disparate locale they seek to vivify or destroy. So you can heal the sick, right? That's like nuns healing the sick, right? Praying and fasting for days, right? Or you can be like Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and compel people, right, to do hideous things. So I suppose I'll go. I hope everyone has a good weekend. God bless. Let me know what you think.